And so we're going to start off this with Colleen Labbadia. And Colleen is going to talk about starting early with independence, like really early with independence, and how that might look and how you might think about it. Colleen?
I'm Colleen Labbadia. I live just outside of Orlando, and I have 3 kids. My middle son has Duchenne. He'll be 12 in a couple of weeks. He and our daughter are only 18 months apart. So very early on, I mean, my husband and I never really had a discussion about it. It's just, even though Brendan was diagnosed at 1 very early on, Duchenne's always been a part of our lives, the kids' lives. But we knew we would raise them the same. We knew Brendan would have different struggles and difficulties and things that we would address as they came up. But at the end of the day, we were big on instilling manners and politeness into them, making sure they were good little humans, productive members of society someday. And I taught high school for a while, so I knew deep down I didn't want them to be jerks. So that's kind of how we started out with things. And of course, that starts with the power of language and what that looks like and how that works. I loved when Chris Jones earlier said, you know, it's okay not to be okay. And that's something we've instilled in our children from very, very early on. It's okay to be happy or sad. Let us know. If you're tired, if you're hangry, just tell us. You know, we can deal with that, we can work with that. It's hard when it comes out in all the other ways. And by us modeling that as parents, it's easy for our kids to see that and kind of replicate it. I'm a counselor by trade, and I've always participated in counseling myself, especially in this Duchenne journey. And that's another thing we modeled for our kids. You know, it's okay, mom and dad aren't going to be okay all the time. So it's okay if you're not okay all the time. And when it came time for our kids at different ages and different needs to require counseling, that was something that they were open to. They weren't afraid of it. You know, they saw mom go through it and, oh, it's okay. You know, enough to know, I mean, it's like a spa day for me. It's so freeing and relaxing when I speak with her that my kids will say, Mom, did you talk to Miss Belinda today? Yes, I did. And they can recognize that. So it's not so scary for them. And kind of in regards to language, Chris and I always started with just age-appropriate things with the kids. You know, Brendan had special muscles because that's what, you know, a 2- and 3-year-old could understand. And that turns into muscular dystrophy, which was a lot easier for them to understand than Duchenne, but eventually they had the full terminology of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And, you know, again, age-appropriate, their questions we answered. But all along, we've kind of just modeled to them a great example of what being independent looks like. You know, we've always encouraged them to advocate for themselves. Mom, I can't find my math homework. Okay, so you're gonna have to go in and let your teacher know. You can't find it. If we find it tomorrow, you can bring it in. Can you do it? Yeah, you got this one. And just kind of giving them that little push that they need to go on and make, at the time, that seems like a huge thing, but just encouraging them to do that because as we know in life, things are going to get more complicated, you know? I mean, our daughter is 13 now. God bless us all. But, you know, different things that they need and require, you know, Brendan has Duchenne and his requirements are different. But always encouraging them in any way that we can and letting them be independent. You know, Brendan sees his older sister on the phone with friends and arranging plans and going places. And he's not a good initiator in that sense. But we like to say, buddy, call your friends. I'll bring you somewhere. Where do you want to go? You know, I'm dropping Kate off over here. I can bring you guys someplace else. Or when Brendan gets really down because his little brother is just a great little athlete, ironically, and he gets really sad about that, it's saying, okay, well, what do you want to do? It's not going to look the way Nolan's, you know, soccer season or basketball season looks, but what would you like to do? How can we make this happen? And just letting him know, again, it's okay to not be okay. Your journey is going to look a little different. The things you're going to do are very different than your siblings and probably your friends, but they're still doable. You know, and I think what I love most about looking at the Duchenne journey is how these kids are so easily adaptable, how they can make adjustments and make life beautiful. And I think that's been one of the silver linings to watch as we go through this process. But it has started very early, and we've left those lines of communication open and free so that our kids know they can come to us at any time. discuss all of the things.
Thanks, Colleen. DeAnne and Kyle? So how does it work at your house?
Well, at our house, I feel like if I need help, I can reach out, but it's mainly in the last source. So at our house, so like at school, if I need help with like a teacher, homework isn't working out, I say, Mom, can you help me? She goes, no, you need to do it. And then like, if it doesn't work out and they're just not cooperating and it's not working out, then she'll reach out. But it's never just, it's always me first.
Yeah. You know, I think about when your kids are little and they want to do things and they know me, I want to do it, I can do it, I do it. And as a parent, you say, okay, you know, let me know when you need help. And I think that's been kind of our mantra, my husband and I, as our kids have gotten older and things have gotten more difficult. And maybe they don't want to say, I'll do it, but we still say, you do it, and we'll be here to help. And I think that encouragement and offering to be there when they need it, and backing off more and more. I think about as, and I guess I should have introduced myself. I'm Kyle's mom, DeAnne Friar, and we're from Grand Rapids. You know, I think about it at the doctor's appointments as you've gotten older. Whereas when you were younger, I'd answer questions and things like that. And as he's become more of a teenager, I physically sit back a little bit farther than Kyle. And I let him answer the questions. I'm there. I'm always here to help. I'll always be his backup. But he can do it. And through encouragement and letting him know, we'll be there for you. I think about as your friends have turned 16 and given up the freedom of my own car keys, giving my car over to his friends to say, take it and go and do what you want to do and be a teenager. Sometimes it's hard to realize that Kyle's 17 and 17-year-olds do things differently than 10 and 11-year-olds do, and giving him that freedom. I don't know, how does that make you feel, Kyle?
Good. Like back to like the driving thing. She gives me the independence to drive around, but like the first
Not you. You
no,
don't
not
drive
me, but my friends. But like the first time we drove around, she made us go around the neighborhood like 10 times around the block just to get used to the car. So that was kind of fun. But now we just go to like restaurants or movies or just like to the park.
There's a lot of trust involved. Part of being independent. You know, as a parent, you have to trust that. I think no matter if your children have Duchenne or not, that you've instilled the right things, and as they become more independent, that they're going to make good choices.
Do you track him on your cell phone when he goes out with his friends on the car? Do you like watch where that's going? Yes. Come on. Okay. Thank you. See there? Yeah. Good work. Yes, very independent, but I would be watching that phone as well. So Filippo, my friend Filippo Buccella from Italy, has a son, Luca, sorry, where's my head? And tell us about how you stopped being a caregiver.
So thank you for inviting me to this wonderful happening that is taking my life busy for maybe more than 20 years, 30 years, maybe. I don't know, bye. So Luca is now 32 years old, and he's quite an independent man. And I remember I tried to do everything Pat always told me to do. So I thank Pat for what she has been telling me for very long time. So Luca is the first of 4 sons. So I think that his kind of independence was the result of the participation of all his brothers and sisters in this kind of busy life. And I feel that I've been lucky with a number of family members, because it make life easier and make things lighter, and it's better for everyone. You always have someone talking to someone else and helping someone else. So this has been my first luck, I feel. Then I would say that one of my worries since we received the diagnosis was to try to help him to be himself. And Italy, we're talking about a place where everyone plays soccer, and the dream of everyone is to play soccer, so football, I don't know how you name it, but so it's quite difficult for a father to think about the future of a son when you know that he will not be a soccer player in Italy. So, and again, he was curious about movies, and he was always thinking about movies. So we try to address his interest toward things that we felt he could continue to do for the rest of his life without any problem. So we always pushed him to read. We always pushed him to watch movies, to be interested in this kind of humanistic things. So I feel this was a prize, because Luca is now one of the few people I know in my life, that I met in my life, which is doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was 9 years old. So he wanted to work in the movie field, so he studied movies and is working with Disney, translating the press folders from English to Italian. So everything that comes out on the newspapers about a new movie from Fox or from Disney is coming from his table. So I feel he feels very lucky, because he continues to do exactly what he wanted to do. So he feels realized in his own way. So this is another part of the success of the story of Luca. And I feel that another success was unexpected for me, because I've always been thinking about the possibility of having Luca living by himself. But in these last years, I really was not convinced to be able to reach that goal. But about 1 year ago, his brother Giacomo, which took his degree in pharmacy, so continues to work with me in my pharmacy, decided to move to a new house with Luca. This is something that, in a way, scared me, because I know what it means, but I didn't do anything to convince Giacomo. This was their decision. So I obviously said, okay, if you want to, I will help you, as I always did. So they bought a new house, and I hope I get rid of them by the end of the summer. I don't know if I get rid of them. Probably I will need to move my workplace somewhere else, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, this is something that was really unexpected for me. So even this last goal was achieved, and I feel very happy about it, because I feel that they will try to have an independent life. They will do everything they can to try and have an independent life. I will help as usual. And no one of us knows exactly what is going to happen, but I feel that we will be happy at the end of it. So this is something good. So now we go to the main thing that you asked me to talk about, the caregivers, because I've been a caregiver for 30 years. But I decided probably 10 years ago that I couldn't stand it anymore. Not because it was too heavy, but just because I felt I was losing the role of father to Luca, with Luca. I couldn't stand anymore working so late after my job going back and taking care of him, put him into bed, and doing all these kind of things. It's not that I don't like it; it's that it was too much, maybe. And we were losing our roles. We were not telling us the things that the father and the son has to tell themselves every day. He was not asking me to help about the choices in life. He was not telling me the new things happening to him. He was just telling me, scratch me here, lift me here, and things like that. So I felt that something had to change. So we started to look for an assistant, and we took 5 years maybe to find one. And Luca had to change his habits and to change his way of expecting things from other people. But in the end, we were able to start working with an assistant. So we have this man comes every day in our house, helps him to lift, to do everything. And Luca can have his own life without me. And when I go back home at night, we can talk about things that happened during this day. So we're starting to have a new life as a father and a son. And I think that this really changed the quality of my life. So every night we see a movie, I'm on the tapis roulant, I don't know you call it, the treadmill. I walk on the treadmill a couple of hours to get rid of my belly, and he watch a movie together with me because we love to see movies together. So we share wonderful time and together as a father and son. So now we have to find the second assistant because he's moving to his own house. So his brother cannot take care of him because his brother needs to go to work every day. So even if his brother wants to go out of his house for 1 week, we need to find another assistant to take care of Luca. So we probably will need to find someone else. And this is a hard job to do. By the way, I feel that we probably are finding a receipt to manage with this kind of problems, and Luca is happy, and I feel that it changed him a lot because it was someone that was not used to changing habits. Now he's taking a taste of it, and he sees that if he is able to change, he's able to have a better life. And I feel this is good for everyone, even for me. I hope it's enough. I don't have a lot to say, but I hope it's good for you.
It's perfect, Filippo, because I think sometimes it's hard to say out loud that I want to be your mom or your dad and not your caregiver, so that we can talk about the things that matter between us and at least set them aside for a while, even if we're serving in both roles.
Especially in the place where mama is a so important word.
That's true. A very important word, by the way. All right, Ravi, you've been pretty independent. Can you talk to us about that?
I don't know if I've been that independent, but I'm Ravi Lipman. I'm 23 years old with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm living with my parents right now, but I'm also attending law school at the University of Memphis. So, I mean, I spend most of my day like out of the house because I'm going to school and stuff. So outside of the home, I've hired my own caretakers to help me like get to school and help me with my lunch and everything when I'm outside of the home. So I mean, it's scary stepping into the real world where like you're trying to become a lawyer and like you're doing something with your life, and that hasn't always been easy for me, you know, because of like we have an expected shortened lifespan, so I didn't know if there was anything like out there for me to like do in my life. But I would say my parents have been very encouraging of me from a very young age to like pursue education, because they know I'm a very smart individual. I'm being humble too, you know. I'm not. Can't say I'm very good at being humble, but.
You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's how you're supposed to be, right?
Because you're an attorney.
So I think my parents and my family really encouraged me to find something that I would enjoy doing with my time, and something that would challenge me intellectually. And I think that law school has really challenged me intellectually, and has very humbled me and like shown that I'm not as smart as I think I am. But, and recently I've been trying to start driving, and like to get an accessible vehicle, get all the modifications that I would need for that, which is itself a very big process. You know, the state doesn't really want to pay for it, and you know, it's hard to get that like ball moving to where like you would get what you would need. So I mean, my parents are definitely scared, I would say, to let me start driving.
Yeah.
Because they said it's not like Mario Kart. It's like you got to be safe on the road. You know, like you get one chance at this, the thing that we call life. So you want to be careful, and like they're worried about the other drivers on the road. You know.
Yeah, but you're going to be an attorney, so you can really get to those other drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, just think of it that way.
Well, there's no like. Too bad there's no Lamborghini that you can convert into a modified vehicle. You know.
I'm not sure safety is there. I mean,
I'm not about safety. You know.
Okay. Oh, good. Lesson learned, right?
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
All right, Patrick and Shane, fix this.
Fix it?
Not fix it, but
We can't fix
it.
Ravi. Well, if we're going to talk about modifying Lamborghinis, we need to bring Filippo back into the conversation. So while you all were talking, for those of you that might not know me, this is my first conference.
we're not supposed to lie. That was like one of the
all right,
prerequisites.
I'm sorry. This is the wrong meeting. Where are we? Who are you? Okay, so while you were all talking, I thought of something up here. For those who don't know me, my name is Pat Moeschen. I live up in New Hampshire with my lovely wife, and I have 2 children. And for 25 years, I had Becker muscular dystrophy until I didn't. And what that means is I was getting all these tests. It's a long story. But anyway, in 2012, they decided that instead I had limb-girdle because I had no detectable mutation in my dystrophin. So after I swallowed that news, I called Pat and I said, I've been working with Parent Project since 2002, and I said, I have a real problem. Like, I need to leave the club. I'm out. I had to, I can't do this. And she said, well, we just won't tell anyone. So as you know, I mean, that's Pat Furlong, right? You can't, it's the blood oath. If we cure this thing next week, none of us are still getting out. We're still going to have another conference, and then she'll be like, let's work on cancer next. Okay. So I was thinking while all you guys were talking that I'm going to pick on Brian in the front row because Brian is a dear friend that I've known for 25 years. No, I'm not going to pick on you like that. You have your computer open. Can you please Google the word independence and read me the definition? Because I think something we really need to talk about is if we went around the room right now, and I teach middle school, so I like to involve the class, every single one of us would probably have a slightly different definition of independence. Everyone said, what's independence? And I'm sitting here thinking, no one in this room is fully independent. You say, sure I am. Really? Then I want to see you take out your own appendix after this meeting. You're not independent. How do you shower in the morning? Do you go out and first gather the water from the stream? No. I mean, do you grow your own food? None of us is 100% independent. So, Brian, I've given you enough time, and the Wi-Fi connection is painfully slow. Okay, no, I can dance. It's fine. But I think independence means different things to different people. So you all, as a family, also have to sit down and define at which stage, as everybody moves through the journey of life, what does independence look like? And you said, I do. Independence when you're a real little kid is, you just want to get around and walk around by yourself. And that's independence. That's your whole world. And then you realize that there's more and more and more. So, you add in a chronic illness, which unfortunately is a bummer, but it still doesn't mean you can't be independent. I've talked to people over the years and they say, well, I don't even really let my son ask for anything. I'm right there to do it before he even asks. And I'm like, there's huge buzzers and red flags going off in my head. As I'm like, no, you're creating a human that will rely on someone else and doesn't even have any manners. You know, it's like, well, where's my dinner? I don't have to ask at 6 o'clock. Like, that's not cool. So like, you know, it's got to be ongoing discussions. Do you have a definition? Because I'm dying up here.
It's the state or quality of being independent. That's clear, right?
The state or quality of being independent. So it's the Office of Redundancy Office.
Freedom from control, influence, support, aid, or the like of others.
Freedom from support, control, independence. No, aid or the like of others.
Or the like of others.
Or the like of others. Doing things by yourself. Competency. If you're a NASA astronaut, your definition of independence is way different than someone that lives in the Amazon rainforest of Brazil. So first, let's just decide that we can't all say, this is independence. So we have to put a sticker on the end of it. So my first argument of this would be, it's great to think about it, but you as a family have to define what the word means. Is independence, my children help me plan the meals? Is independence, they call out for the food? Is independence, they advocate for themselves in school? Is independence, when they go to college, they leave the house? Or is independence, they contact the office at the college and set up all the disability stuff? Is independence getting their license? Or is independence be able to schedule their own Uber? Is independence registering themselves for this conference on the teen and adult track? You know, that's the one thing a lot of you know I work with, a lot of the men in this room that have Duchenne Becker that are adults. And I'm sad to say, not all of them, even as adults, registered for this conference themselves. You did it. That pisses me off because they shouldn't have to rely on you if they're 21 to say, Mom, are we going to the conference? Yeah. Okay, can you register for me? No. You know? So I don't mean to get all old and grumpy, but I'm becoming more, I don't want to, this is going to come out wrong. I'm becoming more like Pat, not old, but her and I have conversations all the time where I said, Pat, I'm too old to sugarcoat this. People come up to me now and they say, how have you built this life? How are you able to live independently? I don't. I have tons of people around me that help me. You know, how have you done this? And I'd say one step at a time. But independence means different things at different times, even different times of the day. So please keep that an ongoing conversation, right? So Pat, I don't even remember what the question was, but that's what I got for.
And you are old and grumpy.
I am. I'm very old and grumpy. Yeah.
So there's
Full
that.
disclosure, in November I'm going to be 50, and you know, you talk about different forms of limb-girdle. It's the same scary information that you all receive. You know, they re-diagnosed me. I said, what does that mean? You know, now I'm 38, and they said, well, you know, you can make plans, but maybe you shouldn't make plans. I'm like, I've been hearing this since I was 12. Like, all right, just shut up. I'll go home, and you know, so let's go. But Shane and I had a great meeting last night talking about relationships, and Shane and his wife, and Steve and Allie Teal, I don't know if they're still in the room, and myself and Vanessa, and we talked about a lot of things about relationships, and independence was one. But we didn't really mention too much about disability. It was more following your passions, figuring out what other people are, you know, who do you want in your orbit? Follow passions, right? People come into your orbit, they get attracted to you, you get attracted to them. That's a form of independence. You have to be able to chase your dreams to be able to bring people into your orbit. Shane, do you want to like add on about just developing your independence?
Yeah, I just have an example adding on to what you're saying about independence.
You can say rambling, because I was definitely rambling.
Adding on to your ramblings about independence.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more that independence looks different for everyone, and that's okay. There's no objective form of independence. An example that comes to mind, when I met Hannah online, and our 2 years of long distance involved a lot of texting and FaceTiming, as I said. I was living at home with my mom and dad, and back then, like, as I met Hannah, our kind of routine was that around 9, 10 p.m., when my dad was ready for bed. You know, he had to get up for work at 7 a.m. So we had agreed over the years that around 9:10, my dad would put me into bed, and that was the end of my day. You know, as I became a high school student, a college student, that was frustrating at times, but I understood because, you know, he had to get up for work in the morning. Couldn't be asking him to stay up all night. And then I met Hannah, and suddenly I had this giant reason to be awake past 9 p.m. I wanted to be texting her all night long, and that was difficult because I had this routine with my dad, and so we talked about it. And these are the kinds of conversations that I believe allow independence to happen. And I explained to him the problem, and you know, I would really love to be able to be on the phone with Hannah at 11 or 12, but I understand that you need to be in bed, you need to be asleep. So what can we do here? And after discussing that, we came up with a solution that involved my dad putting me in bed at my normal time, 9, 10, whatever it was, and then he would set up a mount for my phone that held it in the perfect position so that I could still use it in bed after my dad had gone to bed. I never even fathomed that a little hack like this was possible, and it ended up being so simple of a solution. But it began with that conversation, allowing both sides to hear each other and talk about what might work to make both sides happy. So yeah, I agree. Independence comes in a variety of forms, and they all need to be embraced. Thank you.
Yeah, and can I just jump down to the end of the line there? Jake, do you guys, how often do the conversations happen in your house, and what are any of you guys, what do they look like? I mean, is it more active of thinking, oh, I don't have to do this for him right now, or maybe you guys, you don't have to do this for your parents. Like, you know, don't forget, even though we use the wheelchairs, there's occasional times where you think, oh, you know what, if I put this on his lap, he can zoom right over there. So, you know, we all lean on each other for different things. What do the conversations look like in your households? Stumped you.
I can give a really brief one to start.
Yeah.
Hannah and I have very different preferences about what time we wake up in the morning. I love to get up at crack of dawn and begin my day with exuberance. Hannah would prefer to sleep in until 2 p.m. if she could. I don't see her, but I'm sure she's rolling her eyes at me right now. But this, when we began living together, created some conflict, you know. Hannah was the one getting me out of bed, and so if I wanted to get up at 7 a.m., Hannah had to get up at 7 a.m. And I understood that wasn't fair to, you know, demand or require that she be doing that. So we didn't. Instead, we had conversations about it, and we landed on compromise. I think compromise is a huge word when it comes to independence. So some days we get up early, some days we sleep in. And that's not a bad thing. We both are happy. We both feel like we're compromising and contributing. And that allows me to maintain, you know, the sense of independence, that I have control over my life and my decisions because I've arrived at this routine with my life together. So, yeah.
Cool.
I'm going to jump in and say, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said compromise. Independence as parents and as the son with Duchenne in the family, there has to be compromise. You need independence, and that requires some flexibility on the parents' part. But also parents need some time to be, you know, some ways to be independent too. You know, and you need to understand what we have going on as parents. We have to get to work at a certain time, and that might cut into some things that you need to do. So it's definitely a two-way street with independence and how things work, I think, in any family.
Ours is kind of newfound right now because Brendan is starting to decline more and losing function, which is kind of new for him, for us, for everybody. And that we found has come with a lot of anger. So his tone and the way things have come out, we've had to have a lot of conversations about, we understand, validate his feelings. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is sad. You know, we hurt just as much as you do, but let's do this together. And figuring out, you know, okay, using your manners, you know, a nicer tone. Yes, you're gonna be mad and it's gonna come out, but we can't do that every single time. And I just know, like, if we're at the start of this, like planting that seed early and now will hopefully help as he grows.
Yeah, and again, I think, you know, we talked last night, but there is no real normal with any of this. There's no normal with anything. So, you know, having the open and honest conversation has to be a continuing point, you know, of independence. And when independence is taken away, I mean, we all feel the frustration. That was my lead into a great joke that has nothing to do with muscular dystrophy. If you want a good example of taking away independence, speak to Pat about COVID. I'm not even joking. Pat's independence for the last however many years, as you all know, has usually been on an airplane. When I text the woman, my first question is, are you in the country? You know, and suddenly that was taken away, and your whole mannerisms changed. So let's not talk about muscular dystrophy for a minute. I would call you, and you would say angry things about your lovely town in Ohio, as if, like, if I have to stay...
unlovely things
wait
about
a minute.
Middletown, Ohio.
If
No.
I, you know, this is, by the way, this is about to be an intervention. So, because after this meeting, you are packing your bags. We're going back to Middletown. So but, you know, so I just want to make the point that don't forget, it's like it for all of us. You know, I mean, you've gotten used to a certain lifestyle, and then it was taken away, and I felt your frustration, because I was like, this woman, you need to get out and move around, and now you were trapped in your house. And I remember once saying to you, you know, Pat, ha ha ha, now this is how we feel. Like, you can't go anywhere you want right now because of COVID. And it was a lesson for all of us. You know, suddenly things were off limits, and I had a lot of fun watching social media blow up, and people go nuts. How dare you make me wear a mask? How dare you this? How dare, these are my rights? I wanted to be like, okay, sit in a chair for a day and just try to go to every building in your town. And then get hauled off by the police for screaming, you're trampling on my rights. I have to be able to go into that house. There's stairs, go home. So, like, you know, we've all lived with that since we were diagnosed. And now you all just got a little taste of it. It's not fun. So you find a way around it to still be independent, you know. I began to raise money for Pat to have a private jet. I'm happy to say that I reached the goal, and the Lego set is in the mail. I'll be here all weekend.
Ravi, what's independence for you?
Independence for me is, well, obviously I'm trying to learn how to drive, so, like, my parents don't have to drive me everywhere. You know, it's like, it's frustrating showing up to parties and stuff, like, with your parents. Like, you don't want your mom there, like, you know, like, pulling you out of the van and stuff. Like, you just want to be independent. You want to be able to go where you want to go, when you want to go. And I think it's been frustrating for me over the years, like, having to rely on other people for transportation, because it's understandable that parents have their own schedule and stuff going on, and, like, but we also want to be independent as well. So I feel like doing the things that I like doing and going places where I want to go is what independence means for me. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I'm going to be completely independent. Like, I have caretakers and stuff to help me when I go out, but I like being able to go out with my friends, you know, and just enjoying movie or other things and not having to worry about, like, my disability and my mom embarrassing me.
I think it might be you embarrassing your mom, right?
Well, yeah, I embarrass her a lot. But.
Filippo, are you independent? And is Luca totally independent?
I feel that Luca feels quite independent, but he has a particular vision of independence. So it doesn't like to be out of his house every day, but he likes to do exactly what he wants. And this is independence for him. And I feel that even independence of parents is something. And this is something that I realized late. And I felt I did my best to regain my independence. And independence is not that I don't care about him. Independence is that I want to give my best to him and to give my best following my role of father, because this is not something that can be lost in the relationship. But it's not hard. It's not easy to find someone that can help him exactly how a father or a mother would do. So this is very hard to put in place, but it's something that we can do. And I feel that I particularly agree with what she said regarding the possibility of open dialogue regarding everything. I feel that independence is something that is realized through dialogue and to discussion, to the possibility of exchanging the vision between two persons in the same place. So if Luca feels safe to ask me everything, I can probably negotiate and find a way, exactly as Shane said, find a way to do things that are probably easy, but if you don't ask, there's nothing to do. So I feel that we as parents, we need to teach our children to ask. And this can probably help us to understand what we can do and what we can do better. But we not have to think about our relationship as a slave of our kids. And I see a lot of families, the parents are slaves of their kids. And this is something that I really don't accept, because this is not good, even without DeAnne. And I see this also without DeAnne. So it's something that we need to be very careful.
I think safe conversations, I like the word safe. I like the word protected conversations. I like the word to be able to ask each other. Some conversations from parents are hard. They're hard to raise the issue. They don't feel very safe. And then there's this need to protect. So we're much more, I'm sure there's a spectrum like all of life, but some of us are overprotective by nature. So I don't know if any of you have felt that or felt the overprotection of, back up a little bit and having a parent who's reluctant to back up. Welcome thoughts on that.
What about a wife that doesn't protect you at all?
You have an attorney, divorce her.
Ravi, I'd like to hire you.
I'm not giving legal advice here. Not for free, at least.
Ah,
Oh boy, Ravi.
You there?
well played. Did you forget the question?
Yes.
Sorry, I have a habit of that. Pat's gonna cut my mic.
I'm good with your questions. But safe conversations are protected. How do you do it? How do you raise them? And are some conversations difficult to raise?
Where we are in our journey, we're in a new phase of DeAnne, and I think it has been difficult. He has a lot of feelings and he has a lot to get out, and it's some things that Chris and I will tackle together with him. It's some things, I'll say, hey Chris, that might be something you need to speak to him about. But just keeping those lines of communication open hasn't been easy, but it's something that we're persistent about, I guess. And I'm okay to let him see our emotions too, so he knows that, it's okay to feel all these different things and process all of these things. I look at it like that's hard to do as an adult, right? And here he is, this 11-year-old little boy who's trying to navigate all these life changes. So it's not easy, but then we have a lot of fun, light conversations, and he had the big birds and the bees talk at school. But he came home and he had questions, and I made Chris go in for that one. But I was happy that he could do that and not just sit and wonder, or, good Lord, go on the internet. And that was good. So the good, the bad, the ugly, we're a family. We're gonna do that together. So.
Kyle, conversations, safe, unsafe?
I feel that like making sometimes me uncomfortable in a situation. So say I'm at the grocery store and there's something on the top shelf. I sometimes don't reach out to my mom. I feel uncomfortable and I have to reach out to other people. And now that I've done that before, it's just kind of normal. Just reaching out to others.
That's hard, I
I
think.
have that same problem at the grocery store.
I'm going to be real serious for a moment because we've talked about this level of independence too. There's this aura around muscular dystrophy, and maybe this goes back to Shane talking about society's view of disability, that no matter what happens, if you're able to walk around, you're not really disabled. Society tells us that if you're in a wheelchair, you're disabled. And I think that's percolated through our society forever. And I tell people that, if you're on the early end of this journey, and a lot of parents have said to me, I don't know when the wheelchair is coming, and it's terrifying. I say to them, and we all that use a wheelchair have gone through this, it is for like 15 minutes, and then when we're in the chair, we realize that we've just bought back so much independence. I was having this conversation with a lot of you this weekend, and get in the chair, and all of a sudden, if I'm at a bar, my friends don't have to stand around and form a block. If I'm in the chair, I'm not going to worry about getting knocked over. I don't have to worry about how long it's going to take me to get from point A to point B, because the chair is going to help me. So it actually bought back independence. Same thing with driving. I drove traditionally for a long time, and then I was like, oh man, how does this all work? And joysticks and hand controls, and this is going to be so hard. I had to get driver's ed again and re-road test. And funny side story, when they were testing me on the van, I went into the left turning lane. I cheated a little early and crossed the double yellow, and the woman was like, you just crossed the double yellow. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, when you're 16, I was like, I ignored all the rest of the road rules. So I'm like, oh, it's about the hand controls. She's like, no, you still have to stop at the stop signs. So Ravi, life tip. It's the same thing. Once I got going with the van, I thought, man, here it is again. Now I don't need anybody to put the wheelchair in my trunk and help me with this and that and get me started. I drive in by myself, I lock in, I start up, I leave. So some of these tools that we have that are along with us on the journey actually help to facilitate independence. Some are more expensive. Putting an elevator in the house, getting a ceiling lift, you know all that stuff, but you get the equipment begrudgingly because you say, man, if I get this new equipment, it means the disease is progressing. Maybe, but it also means you're buying all this independence. And if all of us were in this room 200 years ago, everyone would be in huge trouble because we'd have none of it. So the equipment also facilitates independence. Try not to be too afraid of that, because for us in the chairs, it helps. I mean, any of you guys that are using the chairs, do you want to chime in on that? Gaining independence?
And also chime in on, people look at chairs. Shane, you talked about disability, and you are, since you're on YouTube, I'm not as familiar with that, but when you're on YouTube and you get negative comments or views, how does that land on you? How does that land on all of you when I was with my boys once and some lady said to them, well, you're lazy in a chair. I wanted to throttle her, right? But they ignored her and went on. So how do you feel?
Yeah, I think going back to the power of language, wheelchairs are absolutely an independence-enhancing tool. And so when we use phrases like wheelchair-bound or no others come to mind right now, that's a big one.
Confined
to a wheelchair, absolutely. They conjure images of dependence, and it's a negative connotation. But as you said, anyone that uses a wheelchair would much rather be using it than not. Otherwise I'd be lying on the floor right now and not very comfortable. So I think the way that we talk about disability as a society, I use that word a lot if you haven't noticed, needs to change and improve, and recognize that assistive technology is a positive thing, not something that we should feel bad about that someone needs to use.
I remember that I was particularly moved from the use of this kind of tools because when Luca was still able to walk, he was probably 6 years old. We went to see a shop of wheelchairs, things like that, because we were inviting them to our conference. And Luca started to jump on wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs, and started to run back and forth everywhere. So I think never before that moment, I never had to say to him, Luca, stop! So when I said it, I realized that was the first time I was telling to Luca, Luca, stop. That's crazy because you know he has Duchenne, so you don't want to say stop. But I was pushed to say because I wasn't able to stand him anymore because he was running everywhere. It was really crazy. So that was my time when I realized that this tool was a mean of independence, total independence. And I've been fighting with a lot of parents in Italy because they still continue to ignore the need of a power wheelchair. They still continue to prefer an easy wheelchair because so they can lift and put it in a car. So I feel that we need to be very careful about this, and maybe we need to probably more collaborative and more easy to promote this kind of power wheelchairs since they're very young.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I feel like the power wheelchair, like, I was a little, initially while I was still ambulatory, I lost ambulation when I was in high school, in middle of high school. So, like, I was self-conscious about it. I didn't want to be, like, I didn't want to be known as the guy in the wheelchair, you know, like, I didn't want people to think of me, like, just by my wheelchair. I wanted them to know who I am. So, like, I was walking initially, and, like, I would notice that, like, I would be worried about if I would fall or, like, how long it would take me to get to classes. And so I felt like when I got into the wheelchair, all those worries about, like, am I going to fall? Who's going to pick me up? You know, like, am I going to hurt myself? I feel like that went away when I got into the power wheelchair. And, like, the other students at my school, like, they embraced that, and, like, they thought it was really cool that I was in a wheelchair. And
Did you feel that your friends were your friends and then you went into this wheelchair? Did you feel any difference in the relationship? And did you seemingly think that they did?
Well, I feel like people were a little bit, it's kind of paradoxical. I feel like my friends were a little bit more, like, we got closer when I got into the wheelchair because I could do stuff, you know. I could go places where I wouldn't normally be able to get to because I was worried it would take me too long to walk, like, all the way there, or I'd fall, you know, and, like, get hurt. So I feel like my friends, like, they got closer.
Okay.
Yeah, when I first got my power chair, I was super nervous. Like, I didn't want to bring it to school. I just was, like, embarrassed. But now, like, when I go to have it at school and go around, people hop on the back. It's just, like, so I feel like I've gained, like, a lot of friends. I just feel like I'm able to access a lot more.
I want to just quickly add one thing to seriously again is I always tell everybody kids are a lot easier than adults because kids don't have the prejudice and the worldview that we all have as grown-ups. So when you say that so many times, I have a long talk with my students at the beginning of school, but I'm careful never to do it in the first or second class. It's usually the third or fourth because I don't want to put this front and center. But after I explain everything that's going on, they barely ever ask again. They don't care. Like, it's not just, okay, it's the way it is. We're the ones with more of a problem because what have society taught us, right? Wheelchair, bad, disabled. And Ravi, we don't see you as the guy in the wheelchair. We see you as a Buffalo Bills fan, which is not good.
It's better than where the Patriots are right now, you know. It was all Brady, you know.
Right.
We do this online, and I always am like, dude, kiss the rings. Sorry.
He's gone.
I am gone. Yeah, it's time for my meds.
That Brady guy.
What?
Shane, so talk to us a little bit about your social life. Are you and Hannah running around, hanging out with friends? Did you do that in school? Are they the same friends or different friends?
So my friendship is pretty different, just for practical reasons of moving 1,000 miles away, your relationships change inevitably. I will say, going back to like the difficult conversations around independence, I can remember in like late high school when my friends began experimenting with alcohol and things like that. I wanted to be a part of that, but didn't. I mean, that was all done very secretly. The biggest goal of that was to have your parents not know the bad things that you were doing. I felt like that was impossible because at the end of the day, my dad was going to be the one lifting me into bed, and if I had been drinking, it was going to be pretty obvious. And so in a way, that really tempered my experimentation with that stuff. I wasn't nearly as wild as many of my friends, but I remember there was a New Year's Eve party that my best friend was having, and it was going to be a rather chill affair, not a rager, but I was invited and I wanted to go, but I knew that there would be drinking, and I knew that I would want to do that there, and so I talked to my dad, and that was one of the more difficult conversations that we had of like, hey, I'd like to do this thing that I know you don't want me to do, but I'm 17, probably gonna do it anyway. Can I get your blessing, and can we kind of talk about what that might look like if I need you to pick me up at 2 a.m. this one time so that I can get home safely and stuff like that. And thankfully my dad was super cool about it. I think he was much more wild than I in his high school days, so he understood, and we made a plan that I could do that, but I should, we had that talk of like father and son, like, okay, you're going to be drinking, be safe about it, he shared all of his life experience with me there, maybe more than I needed, but we made a plan and developed a way to allow me to do that and have him be on board, so that was important. Today, Hannah and I, a lot of our life is like work. We have great friends all over the country that we love to get together with, but on like a day-to-day basis, we've kind of become old people. We really enjoy snuggling up for a movie at night, and we're not running around for, hanging out with people as often as we are, but we're really busy with work and all of the endeavors that we're doing. So I prefer that life to the wild earlier life of, just having fun with your friends. But that's because I'm an old, boring 30-year-old now, so.
No, it's truly old. But your dad did know you were driving through the drive-throughs, right, for beer?
He did, but I was of age by that point, so I was legally purchasing that alcohol, yes.
By the way, I think that Shane's father is lucky because he's been putting Shane to bed at 10, 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
I've been putting Luca to bed at midnight sharp, so for probably 20 years. So I think he's a lucky man.
And then going to work in the morning.
Yeah. And bringing him to school.
Other thoughts? So DeAnne, so tell me about these conversations. Are they safe? Are you comfortable, or do you toss them off to others in your family?
I feel like, and maybe Kyle can correct me, that he and I can have open conversations. What's easy, what's hard. Kyle doesn't say a whole lot about things that are hard. And I think, it comes down to everybody's personality's a little bit different. Kyle has a way of making life look pretty easy. I think that we're pretty lucky in our family to have someone as easygoing and always looking on the bright side, and just having the personality and the desire to be as independent and live his life as full as it can possibly be. We couldn't be any luckier as parents, and as grandma in the audience, I think the conversations we have are good ones, and we're lucky every day to have those.
Colleen?
Yeah, I mean, they're great. I would love to plan for all of them and know what's coming at me, but I don't. And we really just have to take each conversation as it is, kind of like day by day. It's conversation by conversation. And, you know, I'm a counselor by trade, and I use a lot of that in our life with Duchenne. And one thing I practice as a counselor that I do with my kids is unconditional positive regard. So we are going to talk about the hard stuff, but they will always hear something positive on either end to kind of anchor it. So they're going to know they're loved and they're valued and they're supported. And in the midst of that, they'll also know that we're there with them every step of the way. And, you know, if it's not us, we want to know, you know, do you need to talk to Nana? Or do you want to talk to a friend? Let us know, as long as you're just not sitting in it and carrying it around with it. And I think we've done an okay job with that so far. Ravi?
I think something that no one's mentioned before is that sometimes you have to say that, like, you can't talk about that with your parents. Like, so for example, like, I started seeing a therapist, you know, to talk things through and to deal with, like, my mental health and stuff. And so I think sometimes you have to tell your parents, like, I would love to talk to you about it, but, like, I don't really feel comfortable doing that, and, like, it might hurt them. You know, there's some things that you would like to say that they don't necessarily, they can't deal with, you know, as parents, because they have their own lives that they're doing and they're experiencing, and sometimes you need to speak to a professional that would understand how to help you best.
See, I would argue that's healthy, and I would argue that that's a perfect example of independence. You're growing up. All of us in this room were 17 once upon a time. I bet all of you could think of a story right now where you thought, I am not talking to mom and dad about this. Why are we any different? We're exactly the same. I didn't want to talk to my parents about sex when I was 16. My father gave me the speech, like Shane. It was a lot more than I needed to hear. I was like, Dad, just stop talking. Your kids feel the same way. So you say, you know, you become the caregiver, the lines are blurred, as you say sometimes. And don't be offended when your son says, you know, I help me find somebody else I can talk to about this. Oh, you can talk to me about anything. No, they can't, and they shouldn't. Just try to remember when you were that age. That's a great example, Ravi.
Filippo, did you talk to Luca about the birds and the bees and tell them about your wild early years?
Filippo talked to me about it this morning.
Well, yeah, we had fun telling story about my young years. So long time ago, it was another century, and but no, it doesn't talk about sex with me or doesn't talk about his problems. I suspect it doesn't talk with me, but I was lucky. I'm lucky because I have other sons. So he probably talks a lot with Giacomo. They're almost same age, and they are always chatting together. They are two phases of the same goal. So I don't know. I think he doesn't need to discuss with me in deep about everything. But I have always been there if he wanted to ask, and I feel that every time he wanted to ask and to discuss, I've been there to talk about it openly.
Pat, do you talk to your daughters about the birds and the bees? Did you? I'm being serious.
Well, yes, I did. I talked to all of them, although my youngest son, Patrick, talked to me about them and told me the stuff that I didn't know. So it was very good.
And what did those conversations look like? And how did it make you feel?
Well, with the girls, I was concentrating on hopefully getting them through school. With Patrick, I was just hoping he didn't get to jail.
Was it achieved? Did he ever get arrested?
No.
Good.
No. None of the children got arrested.
Good. Well,
which was a goal.
It's not over yet.
And they never jumped in fountains.
I didn't say their mother never got arrested. I just said the children.
Oh, the fountains. Ouch. Yeah, do we want to do questions while we're talking, or do we?
Brian, questions?
good.
So there's one online comment, I think it's germane to this, and it states that another way to look at independence is that apparently this comes from Stan Nelson. It's the definition comes from Stan Nelson. It's autonomous interdependence. So ultimately that you're got your independence, but with the support of others, which I'm going to choose the monitor's prerogative and give a little story about my son Patrick, who is 27 and still drives. And I think that's something that we all want, is we want our sons to be independent. And I still think of every time I see the taillights going out of the driveway. And I don't know if any of you here have driven in the past year or two. People are crazy out there. My heart races because I'm petrified, but there's also joy because he's doing what he wants to do. So I think that's part of all this equation. We want our guys to be out there and doing the things they want, but it's also going to be frightening for us as families.
I do think it's amazing. I think the opportunity to drive is incredible and should certainly be an opportunity. As a mother, I will say to you, I'd be in a state of panic. I might be driving behind you. I would be certainly following you on my phone, and I might call 100 times to your destination. But that said, that'd be a safe conversation we'd have to have for you to say back up. But it is frightening. But it's frightening it would be frightening, and it was frightening for me to have any of my children drive, regardless of if they were in a wheelchair or anything, because I think teenagers, forgive me right now, are clueless. And then you put them in a car, and then you're terrified. So I think the wheelchair doesn't make it better or worse. It is allowing all of our teenagers independence for what we see as can be a very frightening world, especially with, the things you're seeing on social media. It's terrifying. So I think that, as a parent, at least for me, makes me more overprotective, not just because of a chair or any equipment, just because of what I worry about that's out there. I don't know if you two moms or all of you feel the same, but I find it a little terrifying.
Well, I've been in Rome, and Filippo, nobody over there should drive. I got into a cab in Rome, and I turned to my friend Jim, and I said, I'll see you on the other side, man, because it's real. There's like 3 lanes, but there's 9 lanes of traffic. Everyone's going like 70. I thought I was going to die. So I can imagine you'd be terrified over there.
I must confess, sometimes I feel I'm not a good father because I was thinking about independence now, and I remembered that probably 3 or 4 years ago, Luca and Giacomo went to Norway. They had to film a new commercial for Parent Project, so they went to Norway to do this kind of travel and to do a documentary that we can use to fundraise for Parent Project in Italy. And since they left, they stayed away probably 4 or 5 days. I never felt I was worried about their situation because I was sure that if something was going on, they would call me. But I was relaxed, and I felt that everything was fine, and I was happy about this new situation. And probably that was the beginning of their decision to go and live by themselves. So independence is something that comes day by day.
Are you more protective of Julia than you are the boys?
Nope. No, and she doesn't allow me to be protective. She really doesn't tell me anything at all. And so she's female.
Zing.
Zing, right? Thoughts on protection as an adult?
Well, I think in my position, my dad is more protective of me than my mom. Like, my dad he doesn't feel comfortable letting me like go out and do stuff, and like he wants to know where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm with, that kind of stuff, at all times, and it's sometimes it can be overbearing, and you sometimes have to tell your parent, like, I got this, like, you don't have to be too worried about me, like, nothing's ever happened to me, I'm not that dumb, and good thing I'm not a teenager anymore, I kind of passed those days.
That means back up.
Yeah. And I don't think my parents know how to like technologically track me. You know, like I don't think they know how to figure that out. You know, they're kind of old. So
Are they in this audience?
yeah, they are.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, your world's going to change.
Yeah. After this conference, I'm really gonna be locked down. You know?
Never mind the pandemic. I think you're kind of in a mess. Other final thoughts and comments?
Lockdown, I love it.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm Ravi's dad.
Oh,
He definitely covered for his mom because I would definitely be the one that more likely to embarrass him in front of his friends, not her. She's always encouraged him to be very independent. He didn't touch on some things I think could be helpful to other families and boys here. So when Ravi was in undergraduate and college, my wife encouraged him. Transportation was a problem, and she was very encouraging. She found the city bus routes, and he actually started taking the public bus, which was much more reliable than in Memphis than the handicap bus. Memphis has not the greatest municipal services, so Ravi would take the bus. But one thing that I want to point out for everyone, which I think can really foster independence as the boys get older, is the availability of a portable chair like he's sitting in right now. For the longest time, we did not have that, and we always would travel, and we didn't want to take the big permanent chair. So he was stuck in a manual chair, which relies someone to push him, and then he's stuck. He can only go where someone pushes him. So for both travel like he has now, but also for his friends, this chair doesn't require a wheelchair van. There's not too many 22-year-old boys that have a handicap-accessible van to pick him up and take him. But now any of his friends can pick him up, collapse that chair, put it in the trunk. He can go to the movies, parties, swimming. He knows we work. He knows we wake up early. He's developed a great core of friends, and they're more than friends. They're also caregivers, so he knows if he's going to come home after midnight, they're going to have to bring him in the house. They're going to have to put his pajamas on, take him to the bathroom before bed, put him in his bed, and he's got great friends that will do that. And that's opened up a whole new world for him, where just recently he's also wound up spending a weekend with a friend. He's met great friends, both undergraduate and in law school, and having the availability of this portable chair, I can see has really made a world of difference. So if you can get your insurance company to cover it, or if you can afford it on yourself, I would really recommend that.
So are you awake at midnight when that happens?
Nope. He'll come home and I'm sleeping. So like he said, I was really protective. So the first time he ever went out, high school, I think he had the experience of a lot of boys. Like everyone was really nice to him, but he was in this huge 600-pound chair. So no one's coming in the house and, hey, let's go to the movies. Like if you want to go somewhere, we'd have to take him. So the first time in college, I remember when he was a freshman, he met a really great kid that changed his life, that took interest in him and started inviting him. And he went out, and we went to bed. His sister comes down, it's midnight, Ravi's not home, you need to call him. She was more worried about him than we were, but it's like I think you're all doing. You have to, no matter if your kids are able-bodied or have anything, you have to instill the values that are important to you, and then trust your kids. They're going to make the right decision. Give them the tools. So he'll come home now, and I don't wait up for him. So.
Thank you for that. Last comments, DeAnne. Advice.
I think that letting your son make the decisions and always be in the background ready to help, encouraging and ready to help, I think is the best way to foster independence.
Kyle.
Try new things. Don't be afraid. If it doesn't work out, just go on to the next thing. it'll work out.
Colleen?
Be flexible. I'm very type A. I like to be in control of things, and DeAnne has taught me that I really have to let go of a lot of that and, have faith in what we instill in our kids. And it's going to be a journey. Where I am today is not going to be where I am next year or in 10 years, and I've got to learn to ebb and flow with it as it comes.
Ravi?
I think it's scary to let me give advice to people. That's a lot of confidence you have in me.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I would say just live. Like we might have a shortened lifespan. We might not know when our time is done, but like we're here now, and we can do stuff now.
I want to speak in front of my lawyer here. Whatever you want to do with your sons, start early, because it's always too late when you realize it. So start early to do everything, toward independence, toward everything, but start early.
I would just, there's not much more I can add. This has been great, and I agree with everything. I would just say, encourage your kids to chase their dreams. I said this at the end of the keynote, but the worst thing you can do is not expect the best for them. And so expect the best for them and encourage it, and don't limit them before they've had a chance to decide what they want to do.
Independence comes in many forms, but it's also a whole village effort. And every single one of you that I've had conversations with in this room over the years, I love all of you very much. And you all empower me to be independent. And this whole time we all get together, it is always so uplifting, because I learn so much from each and every one of you about independence, and I draw strength from all of that. And I think we need to all continue to draw strength from each other. I've learned so much more from all of you than you could ever imagine, and I just glad I publicly got the chance to say that, because I love all of you guys, and you help me be independent. And keep in mind, you have a great opportunity to do that all the time and share and empower everybody, expect the best, and continue to be independent as much as you can. So thank you. It's great to be up here.
Well, thank all of you. I have to say that you all have taught me, and you have taught me how to be better me. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm also always grateful for all of you to back us up, tell us where we're allowed, tell us to see differently, because that enables all of us to be better and to be what we want to do and follow our dreams. Because I have learned that my children's dreams are not my dreams, and I need to allow them. So thank you. We're going to shift gears again, and we're going to get back into breaking news, so you're going to hear exciting news. And then our last session, we're going to wrap up the conference talking about what is the future as we see therapies come online. So thank you all, and there's more to come.